Coming up on today's show, Veruca Salt and Anna Paul's messy TikTok scandal, the revealing university study into tattle life, Chloe Morello's anticlimactic medical emergency, and the OG boyfriend of Instagram returns to a 9-to-5. Hello and welcome to Outspoken. It's your dose of the hottest influencer and pop culture news twice a week. I'm Amy Torber, and Sophie, you have finally got your comeuppance.
Yeah, I do believe in karma, and this story really proves that karma is real because...
I was going to say karma is your boyfriend.
Because listeners will remember, I think it was last year, maybe a couple of months ago, I walked in on Amy's husband, Dale, on the toilet doing a number 2. And I felt...
I don't know if he specified last time what he was doing. That's obvious.
I felt really bad for him because we laughed that I could see his legs because his pants were literally like down to his ankles.
I'm glad it was just his legs.
Yes. Anyway. And so Amy and I were talking in the bathroom getting ready for this episode. And Amy was standing in the bathroom, and as we do, we go to the toilet in front of each other. So I just sat on the toilet. Amy left the door open. I didn't know that her husband was home. He then walks past, sees me sitting on the toilet, but I'm actually kind of glad about it because I was feeling a bit awkward because I felt like I had something over him. So now we're both equally embarrassed.
So karma is the guy in the hallway seeing you on the toilet.
Well, yeah. Maybe I still have a little bit of hand because I was not doing a number 2. I was just doing a wee. So I still think it's bad on his end.
Were your pants pulled right down to the floor like Dale's were?
They definitely weren't. We were discussing this. Women do not pull their pants to the floor. I think it was on New Year's Eve. We had this debate. Why do men do it?
There's also men that apparently get nude so they can take a shit.
But they'll also have a shower after they've had a poo as well.
How much time do these men have to be removing all their clothes and then showering? Yeah, I mean, it's obviously just an at-home thing. I suppose girls have their own quirks with going to the toilet. Like a lot of women don't want to do a poo at work.
So I did a question thing on Instagram to see what you guys wanted to see. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Madison Woolley has revealed her boyfriend Jonathan Sauer has been forced to return to a full-time job outside of influencing. The OG boyfriend of Instagram, who famously dated Shani Grimman in her heyday, has returned to work in the finance world. Now, the 31-year-old previously worked as an accountant before leaving his job to become Shani Grimman's manager. Now, since then, he has worked as a model and an influencer.
I see Jonathan everywhere. I've seen him when I'm walking down my shopping centre, a big photo of him at the barber. He's on KFC ads, all these fast food ads.
OPSM, I think, as well.
All these male clothing brands. He's everywhere. So he must have had some success in modelling.
Yeah, but not so much success in the influencing space because it hasn't really come as a surprise to me that he's been forced to return to 9-to-5 because he has lost over 66,000 followers since May 2019. He's now sitting on 99,000 followers.
Wow.
It's pretty interesting because his girlfriend Madison Woolley currently has 738,000 followers. And normally influencer relationships attract a lot of followers for both parties. However, when you take a look at Social Blade, Madison Woolley has also been losing followers in their thousands. So since July 2022, she has lost over 81,000 followers. Something is not quite right though, because prior to that date, she was gaining followers at a very rapid pace, despite not having any life milestones to actually match that growth.
It's very fishy.
Yeah. So for example, in August 2019, she had an influx of 52,000 followers in 1 month. So you would have thought her boyfriend's Instagram account would have captured some of that overflow in that month, but it did not.
Her large follower count is quite puzzling because it also hasn't bolstered her brand 23rd and Madison, which is a clothing brand.
Yeah, well, she actually came out on her podcast and said that she'd been really struggling with the brand and that she was in debt from it. And recently she has actually got a new manufacturer in Australia and has been putting out more drops. However, there does seem to be something going on here because these follower counts don't make sense.
Yeah, and also we're going to be talking about Tattle a bit later, but she doesn't have a tattle thread. And if you're a huge influencer in Australia with nearly 1 million followers, as awful as it is, you are going to be on that forum. She just doesn't seem to be on people's radars.
Back to Jonathan. He did make the temporary move from Sydney to Noosa with Madison late last year. And at the time, she said it helped because they both worked for themselves, so they had this flexibility to work from wherever. However, I wonder how this job situation is going to affect that.
Well, since COVID, a lot of business jobs are remote as well. So I wonder if he will have that flexibility. Surely his modelling career took a bit of a hit when he did move to Queensland as well, because there wouldn't have been as many opportunities as in Sydney.
Yeah, I actually just wondered if her parents had anything to do with it, because on a recent episode of her podcast, she spoke about how Jonathan was best friends now with her mum and dad. And I kind of feel like maybe they have pulled some strings and got him a job in Noosa.
I think it makes Jonathan 10 times more attractive that he's actually back at work. And I wonder if we're going to see a trend of influencers returning to work. We heard Katia Milan in her podcast talk about how the influencer space is a lot more competitive.
Well, it would definitely make his content a lot more relatable to other men, because, you know, that we see all of these business bro sort of content out there. And also, personally, I think that there'd be more of him to film.
Yeah, but I don't think he is going to be filming this content.
Well, I don't know, because I noticed for some reason on my Snapchat, he is always popping up as a suggestion. You know how they're suggesting people to follow. And he is quite often speaking to his camera in the car. He seems to be documenting his health and fitness journey at
Maybe
the moment.
Snapchat's paying him, because I know that they are really trying to get influencers back on their platform.
Can you imagine if he returned to his old workplace and everyone's like, knew you'd come crawling back.
Welcome back.
That man's daughter is so wealthy.
A very messy scandal has broken out on TikTok between Veruca Salt and Anna Paul. The Kiwi-born TikToker has accused Anna of allegedly neglecting her father. Now, her dad, Hans, has dubbed the allegations as toxic misinformation. Before we dive in, Kate, can you bring everyone up to speed with exactly who Veruca Salt is?
I always laugh when I see her name pop up, because I actually didn't twig that she has taken the name from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So it only dawned on me the other day. So her real name is Kimberly Summer Hartley, and she is now 25 years old. But back in 2019, she actually sparked a national manhunt when she disappeared from a Gold Coast wedding. She was actually found a week later by police working in a Wollongong brothel. Now, given the extreme publicity at the time, Veruca went public with the fact that she is a sex worker, and she actually started a successful OnlyFans account off the back of it. She now has 643,000 followers on Instagram. Sadly, Veruca has been in the news lately as her 6-week-old son Cash tragically passed away in early February. Now, I don't think Anna Paul needs much of an introduction. She is TikTok royalty with over 7 million followers, and she has built a following from sharing her travel adventures with her family online. She is also one of Australia's biggest OnlyFans creators. Now, Sophie, I could not believe it when you sent Veruca's video through. What is going on?
Well, she has ignited an absolute shitstorm on TikTok, and somehow she has inserted herself into a story that she readily admits has absolutely nothing to do with her. Now, her reason for dropping this bomb is that the information has apparently been keeping her awake at night, and she feels she has to tell everyone. Now, Veruca posted a series of TikTok videos making claims about a popular Australian TikToker. At the time, she did not name Anna, but dropped many clues inferring that it was her. So her audience instantly guessed that she was talking about Anna Paul. The video has since been deleted, but Veruca then went on to confirm on her Instagram story that the allegations she made were about Anna Paul. Now, before we get into these claims, I do want to reiterate that these allegations are merely that. They are allegations. There's no factual evidence to say that this is in fact true. Now, Veruca claims she has been holding on to this information for a month. She said her babysitter came to visit her 2 days after her son passed away and dropped that she was dating Anna Paul's father, Hans.
What a small world we live in with influencers.
Wow.
Now, Veruca described the babysitter as a sweet little old lady who wouldn't make up shit. Let's throw to a snippet of Veruca's claims.
She's telling me that, like, he smells bad and he lives in his van and he can't really shower. He doesn't have money for food. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That man's daughter is so wealthy. What do you mean he doesn't have money for food?
Veruca then went on to explain that she discussed these allegations with a group of her friends at her son's funeral. She claimed that one of her friends of a friend used to live with the Paul family and they backed up these claims. Here's what she said.
My friend and former associate of this influencer went to go get some food and they saw this person's dad in the parking lot. So my friend's like, what is this guy doing in the parking lot and what is he doing picking up somebody else's food doing DoorDash? So former associate who's with my friend says, yeah, no, he's literally homeless. Like the way that his children treat him is disgusting.
Is it just me that finds it a little bit strange that this was the topic of discussion at Veruca's son's funeral?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but then I reflected on the discussion that we had at a funeral recently. And a lot of the time you're almost trying to take your mind off what you're going through.
That
and
is
you will
true.
have a few lighthearted moments. So maybe this was her way of dealing with the situation. Now, Veruca then went on to propose the real reason that Hans allegedly doesn't live in the house with Anna and her family. Here's what she said.
And the whole reason the dad doesn't live in the house is because the mum cheated on him. The mum's really weird and would say stuff like, are you going to buy me this or do you love Papa more than me? And then the children will say to the dad like, oh, if you wanted to live in the house, you should have bought Bitcoin when we were kids. This man is doing DoorDash so that he can afford a gym membership so he can afford to shower. Or he showers at the beach. And his daughter is so rich, and the worst part is that she sits on the internet and pretends to be so caring when this man is basically starving and filthy because she refuses to do anything about it.
Veruca then went on to say that what eats her alive about this situation is that Anna sits on the internet and plays gift giver. It's interesting to note that Veruca's allegations come off the back of Anna Paul recently publicizing the fact that she gave her ex-boyfriend Glenn Thompson a luxury car that some people are saying is worth up to $200,000. She also gifted her mother a BMW in 2022. So she has been known to gift a lot of cars. So people are saying, well, why is her dad driving around in this crummy old van? And Veruca finished the video by saying there's more rumors about the businesses and the breakups, but she hasn't come out with the rest of it because she already feels like it's a situation of people will shoot the messenger.
This is very interesting. I don't know why she is inserting herself into the narrative, particularly after the last couple of months that she has had. It's been a tough time for her emotionally, obviously, with the very devastating passing of her son. And she has been copping a lot of heat online about how she's been dealing with it. She's obviously got some terrible messages that no mother should receive. So I do find it odd that she is trying to, at this point, create this shitstorm between her and Anna Paul.
Well, it's interesting because she's not a stranger to these call-out videos. She did make headlines back in 2021 when she had a public falling out with Peach.
I do remember that now. I mean, obviously TikTokers use it as a strategy to get more followers, to get better engagement. We saw a couple of weeks ago how Kat Clark was using Anna Paul's name to boost her branding of her new beauty launch. I understand why she's done it, but I think that the timing is so off considering what's been going on with Veruca.
If these rumors are true, I don't understand why Anna Paul is expected to fund her father's lifestyle. I know she comes across as extremely generous online, but we don't know the ins and outs of their relationship.
Yeah, I totally agree, Amy. We often see influencers gifting their parents luxury items. But when I reflect on that with my parents, I feel like they would feel deeply uncomfortable to accept those big items from me and would rather me save my money. Also, it was very awkward because Veruca has since come out and said that she actually sent Anna Paul a DM on Friday about the matter and Anna viewed it and never replied. But this message had a really rude tone to it. So the message that she sent was very confronting. She wrote, I found out not through the influence of Vine. I found out by happenstance that your dad is borderline homeless and living in his van, doing DoorDash for some money, and he's showering at the gym/beach showers. I heard that you apparently text him just to be in your videos with you. It hurts me as a former homeless person and also a parent. I couldn't deal with the pain if I was him. If this is true, it also shatters the version of yourself you have shown to me and your audience. To be honest, I know that this lifestyle for him is true, but I was wondering if you have a side or something about it.
It is just so incredibly awkward because in this screenshot, you can see that Anna actually wrote Veruca a really nice message saying, have fun, Angel, in response to her going to the Taylor Swift concert. It just all seems very high school. I don't understand why this argument needs to be playing out online. Surely if Veruca is as connected as she is in the influencer industry, she could have spoken privately with Anna about this if she was truly concerned about it.
I feel like Veruca's message to Anna demonstrates this rationale that a lot of Gen Zers have. They sort of try and center themselves in everyone else's story. So the fact that she has previously been homeless, she feels like Anna owes her an explanation about her dad's very private situation. And when you do look at homelessness rates, a lot of the time it's to do with very personal issues like mental health or addiction. You don't know what's going on in someone's life. And to expect to send out a message like that, where you have laid out so many separate allegations to her and she's supposed to open up. I mean, if anything, this seemed like a bit of a fishing exercise so that then Anna could write in detail and then maybe Veruca could use that in a TikTok.
Yeah, I don't understand why Veruca thinks it's any of her business. Can you imagine how awkward the babysitter must feel in all of this? Because she's trying to date Anna Paul's dad and this is all blown up because of her.
I don't really like the way that Veruca went about sending this message, because she could have messaged her and said, hey, Anna, are you free for a chat on the phone? It seems like very accusatory. And as you said, it's kind of like she's trying to trap her to say something.
Yeah, it seems quite strategic to me because I think Veruca has probably thought, I'm going to do a call out video, but I want to touch all bases and say, actually, I contacted Anna and these are the receipts. To me, it doesn't prove anything. And I don't know why we're digging around in the personal family life of Anna Paul. It's her dad's prerogative if he wants to share whatever his situation is. We don't even know if this is true.
Well, these accusations have led to very curious followers to go and dig more into Anna Paul's dad's past, and many quickly discovered on his Instagram that Hans quite openly posts about his adventures in his van. And in his bio, he actually lists van life as one of his interests. So in one post, he shared a photo of his dashboard and wrote, "Another milestone for my little van/home. I could not stop in traffic to document the round number, but who cares? This car was only ever meant to be an interim solution, but it's proven itself to be the perfect compromise. Cheap to run even as a food delivery van, easy to park anywhere, and comfortable enough to sit in on a rainy few days. Here's to another 340,000. He then shared a photo of him cheersing his coffee to his van and wrote, "If you live in a van, you are free and can go anywhere. So it makes perfect sense if you want to be somewhere in the morning to go there the night before and sleep there. No peak hour traffic to fight." So it is quite clear that yes, he is actually living in this van, but it seems to be his choice.
I don't think it proves that he's living full time in his van. I think it just shows that he does go on road trips and sleeps in the van. I mean, I don't understand why just because his daughter has come into money in the last couple of years, it means that his whole life would change. He might be someone that loves traveling, that loves camping, that loves being in his van. Like, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
I know if Dale and I suddenly came into a lot of money, it wouldn't necessarily affect the way that some of Dale's family members live. Like, for example, his grandpa lives on a property. He loves camping. There's no way that he would accept money from us. And maybe that's what's happened with Anna Paul's dad. He might, be happy to stay at her house, but he probably loves the lifestyle that he has.
I think Veruca has called Anna out on this because she does really like to show her family in a certain light. So she speaks a lot about how her mum and dad, despite being divorced, get on really well and their partners get on well. And she kind of portrays them as this perfect family that everyone would love to be a part of. So I think that's why a lot of people have been shocked by this apparent revelation, because it's against what Anna has been putting out online. But we've got to remember, she shares 1 to 2 minute TikToks every now and then. Like, it's not a shock that things will be going on privately in the background.
Well, you're calling it a revelation. It's actually a very big accusation by Veruca.
Yeah, it's quite interesting though, because Michaela Tester, who is Addis Paul's ex-girlfriend, she has since come out because I think a lot of people assumed that maybe Michaela was the friend associated with the family that she was talking about, because her and Veruca are well-known friends. Apparently they've actually since had a falling out. But Michaela came out and said, look, she doesn't think that the Veruca should have called Anna out like this, and explained that yes, Hans actually loves his van. He travels a lot in his van. He's a very hippie man. And even when they've offered him a bed in the house, he would rather sleep in his van in his garage. So I think that this story has been blown up. And at the time of recording, Anna Paul hasn't commented publicly on the allegations, but Hans has slammed it as toxic misinformation. So he put out a statement on his Instagram saying, "It has come to my attention that there has been some toxic misinformation going on about my private life and my relationship with my family. This is just to set the record straight. I have been living my dream and my daughter has been nothing but supportive. If you have a look at my Instagram feed, you will easily discover that I have been traveling the world in the last few years and that I am lacking nothing. I am very proud of what my daughter Anna has achieved and of the person she has become. If there is anything that can be taken from this, it is idle gossip causes nothing but hurt. Don't participate. Now back to my family holiday." And it is quite ironic because he is currently in Miami with Anna and Addis at the moment, which doesn't really buy into the image that Veruca has been creating. And even though Hans has put out this comment, it did lead to one follower saying, "Are you broke, homeless, and not being financially supported by your daughter?" And he replied, "That is crazy. I'm in Miami now. My daughter is the best."
Now, Veruca has hit back, saying of course Anna's dad is going to go along with it as he'd rather see his children than go against them for his own good. She continued, "Maybe when they get back from their publicity vacation, he'll be back doing DoorDash."
I'm just so shocked that Veruca would make these accusations so publicly because we know what a huge fan base Anna Paul has, and she has been copping a lot of trolling since she came out making these claims.
Yeah, the trolling of Veruca has been quite appalling, particularly because a lot of people have been bringing in the death of her son. We won't be going into those comments because it's just too appalling to give airtime. Anna Paul has also been copying it though as well, because I think it's all down to tall poppy syndrome. I have been noticing this shift towards Anna Paul very recently, ever since her breakup with Glenn Thompson. People seem to just want to tear her down at the moment, and this has definitely ignited that.
In all of this, I don't understand why Addis has got off scot-free, because if anything, he has put forward in the past couple of years that he is very wealthy. When he first started on TikTok, he was living it up on yachts and talking about cryptocurrency, and I would assume he has a lot of fingers in different pies of businesses. I think it looks like he's making a lot of money. So why is it just up to the female to be supporting her father, and why does Addis not have a say? He also lives in this house.
I get where you're coming from, but I think it's because Anna has built a brand on being really generous and being over the top with her gift giving to family members, and that's why this story is at odds with the persona that she's putting out there. And also because she is the breadwinner of that family. Addis may be earning money as well, but she definitely is earning the most cash out of everyone.
Do we think that Veruca felt confident to put these allegations out there because she thought that she had the truth defense behind her? Because if we do look into what she actually said, he does live in his van, he drives his van around, but again, I suppose the intention was off though, because it's not a negative intention from Anna.
It's more the personal comments that she's made about Anna Paul's character that are the damaging ones and the ones that would be defamatory.
It sounds like gossip that should have just been left in that friendship group.
I just think it shows how cliquey and gossipy the GC influencer community is. The fact that this was the hot topic at a child's funeral doesn't sit well with me.
I also think that all of her influencer friends would have been geeing her up to say something, because it shows how competitive the industry is, and a lot of influencers would be looking on and being very jealous of what Anna Paul has achieved, and also the grasp that she has on business and brands. So it just shows when someone is at the top of their game, there's always going to be tall poppy syndrome and someone waiting to bring them down. It's just disappointing that it's someone who is in both industries that Anna's in, both OnlyFans and also on TikTok.
So I was asking you guys, hoping that you would have like a trick.
Beauty influencer Chloe Morello has experienced every contact wearer's worst nightmare. Late on Saturday night, her contact lens became lodged in her eye. Concerned followers urged her to call an ambulance, with Chloe looking distressed and sporting a bulging red eye on her stories. Sophie, how long did this ordeal go on for?
Well, she told her followers that she had been attempting to get this contact lens out for over 2 hours, and she tried everything from contact tweezers to rubbing her eyelid and also using lubricating eye drops. And she finished the Instagram story by asking her followers, should I just sleep in it or should I go to the emergency room? And the overwhelming response from her followers was, go to the emergency room immediately.
Really? I've slept in my contact lenses before and it hasn't really done much.
Have you? Because I thought maybe it's an old wives' tale, but aren't you meant to go blind? Like, isn't it really dangerous?
No. I've done my research into it and it actually isn't an overreaction. It can really damage your eye by sleeping in your contacts, because when you're wearing contacts when you're awake, apparently by blinking, you're getting a lot of oxygen back into the cornea. But when you're asleep, because you're not blinking, it cuts off a lot of oxygen supply and moisture to your eyes, which then causes these blood vessels to develop, and that starts damaging the cornea. But over time, it leads to vision loss.
Yeah, but not for one night. So I remember freaking out when I left my contact lenses in overnight, and I went to the optometrist and he was like, oh, just wear your glasses for a couple of days. I do think they look for any scratches, but I wouldn't be calling an ambulance if you can't get your contact lenses out for one night.
She looked incredibly distressed, and she'd also prefaced that she had slept in them before. So, I mean, it can be a serious thing if you're abusing it and doing it all of the time. Now, she responded to her followers saying that she didn't want to go to the ER and was hoping her followers would have some extra tricks on how she could get the contact lens out. Here's what she said.
Everyone's saying go to the ER. I can't go to the ER right now because I've been drinking. Seb has been drinking. I can't drive there. I'm not about to call a ambulance. If I sleep in it, is it going to be the end of the world? Because I've slept in it. I've slept in my contacts before. They're dailies. And it wasn't the end of the world, but I'm scared that it'll get further stuck if I sleep. Like, this is so inconvenient.
I'm pretty glad she didn't call the ambulance, because in a dramatic twist, it turned out that the contact lens wasn't in her eye the whole time. So her partner, Seb, attempted to remove the contact and kept telling her he couldn't see anything in her eye, but she was convinced that she could see it in the corner of her eye. It wasn't until she put her glasses on that she realized it must have fallen out, or that she never put it in the first place. By this stage, Chloe's poor eye was looking so sore and puffy. She said her poor eyeball got really messed up and she fingered it with less tact than a 17-year-old boy. Now, Sophie, this happened to you on the night before my wedding.
In my defense, I'd only been wearing them for a week because I specifically started wearing contacts for your wedding, Kate. And we'd gone to the nail salon that day and I stupidly opted for square long nails, so that was making it even more difficult to get them out. And you wanted to have like a really relaxed lead up to your wedding and go to bed early. I think I was up till 1 trying to get them out.
We were both up to 1 because I had to be involved because I've been wearing contact lenses for probably over 10 years and I kept trying to coach you into it. I even got my own fingers into your eyeball. It was me that was like, hang on, I don't think this is even in here, and we found it on the ground.
No, it was so funny. It was actually stuck to the edge of the mirror, like it had it was so funny.
Maybe we're not in that book because everybody likes us, and I don't want to be punished for being well liked.
As snark sites like Tattle Life and Guru Gossip rise in popularity, a UK university has conducted a study into the phenomenon of anti-fans. The study has aimed to answer why so many young people have recently turned on once loved influencers. Now, Amy, what are the trademark signs of an anti-fan?
Well, as the name suggests, anti-fans are people who unite around a shared hatred of a particular influencer. So you see it all the time on forums like Tattle Life. And for those who haven't visited Tattle Life before, it is a safe place for people to criticize influencers, which might sound like an incredible site if you are a listener of this podcast, but it does have a very dark side. So nothing is off limits on this forum, with users encouraged to discuss influencers' weight, appearance, mothering skills, all under a cloud of anonymity.
I actually saw a post go up a couple of weeks ago in our Facebook group, and someone was in a panic because they said, has Tattle Life been taken down? And literally every time Tattle Life is mentioned in our Facebook group, everyone's like, can you send me a referral code? Because in order to actually post on this forum now, you need someone who posts on there regularly to invite you in. It is interesting because we actually were sent a thread that we are mentioned in quite a lot because it's about Australian influencer podcasts. And it is so weird to be on the other side of it because for years I have been a lurker on Tattle Life. There are influencer threads that I dip in and out of. I never have commented on there. I don't actually have an account. But it is interesting to put yourself in the shoes of someone that is commented on there, because I think it has a time and a place. And when people are actually commenting on people's actions and critiquing things that they do, when it's critiquing actions, it's fine. But when it gets to a point where you're talking about people's appearances and their personal family relationships, it definitely crosses a line.
And what's interesting is the age range of users on Tattle, because you would assume, oh, they're high school kids, but they're not. A lot of their users are women who have children. They're in their 30s or they're in their 40s.
I think the main issue with it is the fact that you can be anonymous and you can say whatever you like. And because, as Amy touched on, you are this member of this like-minded community, and some of the people they're talking about aren't A-list celebrities. They're very like random people. As you say, the fact that we're a podcast and we've got some thread where people are tearing into us, we're very small fry. But people really bond over that.
And I think that's why it goes up a level, because someone will say something very snarky and then they'll get a laugh and some reactions out of it, and then someone else says something to go on top of that and to be even funnier.
Well, that's the ironic thing about Tattle, is that the people on there actually really used to love the influencer that they now focus on, but now they all have this shared hatred towards that person.
Well, it builds that sense of community amongst them.
Yeah. Now, this university study is really interesting. It examined 297 threads across 2 different snark sites, and each of these threads contained over 1,000 posts.
It's pretty funny to think about these researchers trawling through the likes of Tattle and Guru Gossip to get their information. Can you imagine some of their faces?
Oh, it would have been hilarious. And these researchers, they discovered that the main reason followers turn on an influencer is due to the parasocial relationship they have developed with them. So it usually happens when followers feel like an influencer has started withdrawing from their channel. So some fans start to feel as if they're neglected or excluded from the influencer's life. And I have seen this a lot on Tattle, especially around Sarah's Day. A lot of people fill in the blanks once they feel like they have been left out of this person's life.
Well, there's a lot of creative writing that goes into these threads, because often they will start a new thread with one of the members writing a description that sets the tone of what has recently happened in that influencer's life. And to be honest, sometimes I do have a chuckle at some of them. They are quite funny.
Yeah, they've almost created characters out of the influencers.
Yes, well, the researchers also found that anti-fans felt exploited by influencers, and that was one of the main reasons why they turned on them, because they felt like they were being milked for brand deals or used to fund the influencers' increasingly flashy lifestyle.
I think this is just a development that we've been saying ever since the pandemic, because I feel like there was a time where influencers were really idolized and people were willing to buy into whatever they pushed on their profiles. But once the pandemic hit and we had more time on our hands to examine this whole influencer culture, people have been wising up to the influencers' bullshit, and they realize that they are trying to milk this relationship with their followers in order to better themselves in terms of engagement and also to earn more money. Like, that is the relationship. It might feel like a parasocial relationship, but an influencer's job is to influence you to buy something.
Well, US journalist Sarah Manaves, she wrote this really interesting piece for The Guardian on the university's findings, and she actually labelled anti-fans as delusional for believing influencers are excluding them from their life because they were never actually friends to begin with. She did say, however, that influencers were somewhat to blame for the anger felt by the anti-fans, and she said this is due to the transactional relationship they have with their followers. So she wrote, influencers profess to be the blameless victims of a dynamic that is almost entirely of their own making. So she went on to accuse influencers of actively trying to intensify a meaningful bond between their audience to increase engagement and brand deals. And she also went as far to claim that some influencers stoke fan theories to encourage obsessive attention. I think this is so true.
Yeah, again, Sarah's Day comes to mind because she has been very strategic with the way that she talks to her followers. She calls them her sissies and her best friends, and she always says, I got to jump on here and give you guys this update. And often now those updates come with, you should buy this product.
I do agree that influencers are stoking these parasocial relationships because it does benefit their cash flow. But as influencer culture grows, it's clear that this is a huge downside for them. Being spoken about on sites like Tattle is not great for their mental health.
It's not good for their mental health, but it is good for their engagement, because if you manage to have the willpower not to look at these sites and block them out, it doesn't really matter to an influencer if it's positive or negative engagement.
Yeah,
engagement is big at the end of the day, and that's what brands look at.
I agree. I think it's actually a positive if you're being spoken about on these types of forums, because if you're not being spoken about, it means that your content is irrelevant. And I think that a lot of these influencers would actually be smart to keep track of what sort of buttons they're pushing, which is generating these responses.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely think that Sarah's Day keeps an eye on them, because she does elicit a huge response from people, but I think it benefits her brand. So she keeps doing these controversial things.
This is the thing. It's a tricky one, because I do think these types of forums do have a place in that they allow people to hold influencers to account. However, I think things have just gone too far on them, and that there is moderation needed.
I truly don't understand how the site can continue, because there are just so many defamatory comments being made on there. And obviously the way around it is because these people are anonymous on there. It's sort of similar.
Yeah, but it falls back on who is running the site. And clearly someone is making money off the site, because it is full of advertisements.
Yeah. I think there's a view, though, that influencers should just grin and bear what people have to say, because they have this lifestyle. They're making so much money off their followers that people just think, well, this is the downside to fame. And I do tend to agree, like, if you do put your life out there and you share your opinions online, you should expect for like some form of criticism, and that people are going to talk about you.
But I think this form of criticism is extreme.
No, I think it is extreme in some circumstances. But the best thing you can do, and what I do, is I don't read it.
I definitely think that there is space for people to have educated discussions on influencer culture and analyze different behavior or things that people do. However, I just think that this page is becoming detrimental and downright a site for bullying, and it's really impacting the mental health of a lot of influencers.
It is very toxic. Well, we're going to leave things there, but if you do love the podcast, please make sure you are subscribed and leave us a review. Also, if you want to hear more content from us, we do drop a subscriber episode every Thursday. If you want to become an Outspoken Plus subscriber, all the details are in our show notes. This podcast was recorded on the traditional land of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains. We pay respect to elders past and present.